6 men charged today in an alleged plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. U.S. Attorney Matthew Schneider praising the multi-agency effort that stopped what could have been a violent attack.
All of us in Michigan can disagree about politics, but those disagreements should never, ever amount to violence. Because of the hard work of the men and women of law enforcement, police officers and federal agents, violence has been prevented today.
NBC News correspondent for investigations Tom Winter joining me now. Tom, undercover FBI agents led this investigation. Tell us about it and the threat here to the governor.
Yeah, and it goes beyond that, Allison. I mean, you have the Joint Terrorism Task Force definitely involved in this investigation, leading this investigation. And when you involve the JTTF, you're involving the Michigan State Police, who had a big role in this. You're involving local police departments. You're involving all sorts of other jurisdictions and law enforcement agencies. Really, it shows a comprehensive approach to address this threat. It started with an investigation into social media earlier this year, and out of that evolved an investigation into a militia. One of the members of that militia came forward because they were concerned that the militia was discussing possible attacks and the killings of law enforcement officers. And that person involved in the militia then agreed to engage with this group of 6 people who are not really identified as being part of a militia, but obviously having some, as the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Michigan said, violent extremist views. These are a group of individuals who were constantly in some sort of contact with law enforcement, with the FBI. They didn't know that. They were informants, what the FBI calls confidential human sources. They were undercover FBI agents that were involved in this. And essentially what you had here is a comprehensive investigation. You had statements, according to the court documents, that were recorded. You had undercover agents actually directly involved with these people as they went about their surveillance. They surveilled the governor's vacation home. They surveilled a bridge nearby, which they indicated that they might want to blow up in an attempt to divert law enforcement resources or to hinder law enforcement resources' response to a possible kidnapping of the governor. You had a couple of other instances where there were field training exercises that were done. They tried to create an explosive device. So this was a plot where you had a group of individuals, the 6 people, as you mentioned, 5 of whom are from Michigan, 1 from Delaware, who tried to put together a plot to kidnap the governor. Now, it's not clear at all what they would have done once they kidnapped the governor. I mean, I don't think we're in a situation where the governor would somehow just decide then to end all sort of coronavirus restrictions in the state. But certainly there was an effort underway. There were numerous recorded conversations that are alleged in the court documents, none of which I can say here because they involve profanities directly involving and descriptions involving the governor. But there was a tremendous amount of vitriol here. On top of the 6 arrested, the state charged 7 other individuals that are part of militias. And according to an interview that the Attorney General, the state Attorney General, did with MSNBC and our colleague Katie Tur just a couple of hours ago, those individuals were also involved in those Second Amendment protests that occurred at the state capitol several months ago, back in June, where you saw heavily armed individuals walking around the state capitol. So there's very clearly here a concern about a number of individuals that wanted to do harm, wanted to be involved in violent acts. And I think this is something that bears watching, not just in the state of Michigan, who's had a notorious history with its militias, but also with a number of other extremist groups, frankly, coast to coast, Allison.
Tom, Governor Whitmer spoke just a little while ago. What did she say about all of this?
Well, she addressed it. I mean, she was, I think very clearly concerned and rattled about this. I mean, when you find out that there's a group of people that want to kidnap you and kill you, that's going to be concerning for anybody, let alone for a governor who puts herself out there and is in the public light. So that's a concern, Allison. I think the second thing that she raised was a tremendous gratitude to law enforcement for arresting these individuals, for putting together a prosecutable case. These are tough cases because you want to make arrests and you want to build the best case that you can possible, get the most evidence possible, the most statements possible, but at some point you have to act before somebody gets hurt, and that's really a kind of a tenuous tipping point. So she praised law enforcement, praised them for their work, and then the third thing is she drew a line between the rhetoric that was detailed rather in court documents here, Allison, and the rhetoric that's coming from the White House, specifically President Trump. Now, we should note that the president and his statements were not mentioned at all in the criminal complaint complaint, and according to the complaint, there was nothing that these individuals said that tie their rhetoric back to the president. But I think this is an overall, as I mentioned, an overall concern for law enforcement. The amount of divisive, extreme political rhetoric that's occurring in this country, the impact that it has on certain individuals and their call to action at a time where we're dealing with a global pandemic, when we're dealing with these heightened political feelings, and when we're dealing with, frankly, an economic situation that's very difficult for a lot of people in this country because of that pandemic. It's something we're going to have to watch closely, Allison.
Absolutely, Tom. Tom Winter, thank you so much.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.